There was a boy from grade 6 who thought he was cool. He bullied the kids from lower grades. All the kids hated him, especially a kid from grade 4. The kid's name was Satya. He was very sad that no one liked him. He felt like he had no friends. One day, this kid from grade 6 came up to him and asked for his eraser. Then he took it and started erasing some marks on his desk. And when he was done, he said, "Hey, you want your eraser back? Come get it." And he just stood there with the eraser in his hand waiting. Satya looked at him and then slowly started to walk away. But then the kid called him, "Hey, why aren't you coming here? Are you scared?" Satya looked back at him and responded, "No, I'm not scared of you." And with that, he continued to walk away. The kid just stood there and thought about what had just happened. No one had ever talked to him like that before. They either gave him what he wanted or they ran away. This kid wasn't scared, though, but why? What made him so brave? Well, that kid had a best friend. His name was Veth. He was a very smart kid and he had noticed what had been happening to his friend lately, so he decided to talk to him. Veth walked up to Satya and asked if he was okay. Seth hesitated for a bit, but then he told him everything. Veth listened to everything, and when Seth was done talking, he said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of this." Seth looked at him and said, "You don't have to do anything. It's my problem. I can handle it myself." Veth shook his head and said, "That's not true. This is our problem. We have to solve it together." And without even asking, he went to tell their teacher what had happened. When he was done, he went to find Pratch, and when he found him, he told him, "Let's go see Mrs. Thomas." Pratch got really scared. He didn't want to go to the teacher, but Veth grabbed his hand and pulled him along. When they were outside the classroom, Veth let go of his hand and said, "You better listen to me carefully. You need to apologize to Satya and promise to never bully him again." Pratch knew that what Veth had said was right, but he didn't want to admit it. Instead, he said, "Why should I do that? He deserves what he gets. Maybe if he was stronger, no one would pick on him." Veth looked at him and said, "That doesn't make any sense. He's a kid from a lower grade. Of course, he's not as strong as you. And besides, it's not his fault, it's yours. You're the one who's been picking on him. You should be ashamed of yourself." With that, he turned around and walked away. Pratch just stood there, thinking about what Veth had said. For the first time, he was seeing things from someone else's point of view, and it was actually making sense. But still, he didn't want to apologize. Then he had an idea. He walked over to Satya and said, "Hey Satya, do you want to race? Whoever wins gets whatever he wants." Satya was taken aback by Pratch's sudden change of attitude, but he accepted the challenge. They raced across the playground, and Pratch won easily. He walked up to Satya and said, "I want to be friends with you." Satya was shocked. He didn't know how to respond. Pratch continued, "I think we can have fun together. And maybe you can help me get girls." Satya hesitated for a moment, but then he agreed to become friends with Pratch, and that's exactly what they did. They started hanging out together, and soon Pratch became one of the most popular kids at school. One day Pratch and Satya were hanging out at recess, and they saw some kids playing a game. Pratch said, "Hey, let's play with them." Satya said, "Okay, but they look like they're having fun. How are we going to join them?" Pratch said, "It's simple. All we have to do is beat them at their own game." Satya was confused. He didn't understand what Pratch was talking about. Pratch explained, "If we want to play with them, we have to be better than them. That way they'll want us to be on their team." Satya thought about it for a second, and then he said, "I don't think that's how you make friends." Pratch rolled his eyes and said, "Oh, here we go again. You and your stupid morals. Just shut up and let me handle this." Satya watched as Pratch approached the group of kids and tried to join their game. At first, the kids were hesitant, but Pratch was good at making people like him. In no time, he had them all convinced to let him play. Then Satya joined them, and they were all taken aback by how different he was from Pratch. One of the kids asked, "Wait, you're friends with Pratch? Why?" Satya responded, "Well, I've been trying to show him that there are more important things in life than being cool." The kid laughed and said, "You're not fooling anyone. You're just trying to save face after getting humiliated by Pratch in front of the whole school." Satya knew what he was talking about, but he didn't want to admit it. Instead, he said, "That's not true. I'm friends with Pratch because he's a good guy." The other kids laughed at him, and Satya felt humiliated. He went to find Pratch and confronted him. He said, "What did you do that for?" "Now everyone thinks I'm a nerd," Pratch responded. "I was just looking out for you. Those kids can be jerks sometimes, and I didn't want them to make fun of you." Satya replied, "That's not the way to do it. If you want to be friends with them, you have to earn their respect." Pratch asked, "How am I supposed to do that?" Satya said, "By being yourself. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not." Pratch thought about it for a second, and then he realized that Satya was right. He had been trying too hard to be cool, and in the process, he had lost sight of what was really important. From that day on, Pratch became his true self and stopped trying to be someone he wasn't. He realized that being true to who you are is the best way to make real friends. As for Satya, he learned that it's important to stand up for what you believe in, even if it's hard. He also learned that sometimes you have to let your friends make their own mistakes and learn from them. Most importantly, he learned that friendship is one of the most valuable things in life. The next day at school, Pratch decided to make a change. He stopped trying to act cool and started being himself. At first, his classmates were confused, but over time, they began to appreciate him for who he really was. Pratch started making new friends who liked him for him. He realized that being true to yourself is the best way to make real friends. As for Satya, he learned that it's important to stand up for what you believe in, even if it's hard. He also learned that sometimes you have to let your friends make their own mistakes and learn from them. Most importantly, he learned that friendship is one of the most valuable things in life.